Hello, and welcome to this episode 237 of Frame and Reference. You're about to join a conversation between me, Kenny McMillan, and my guest Larry Fong for a retrospective of 300 and Watchmen. Enjoy. To start, you had already shot The Lost Pilot. You'd done a bunch of music videos and stuff, Losing My Religion and whatnot. Like pretty storied career at that point. But going into such a sort of demanding film as your first major feature, what were kind of some of your concerns and sort of pre-shoot jitters that came about? Because not starting with like a romantic comedy or something, jumping straight into what many consider like one of the most visually interesting films made of recent memory, like that had to have been kind of intimidating.
Yeah, it was intimidating, but Zach had a really good idea of what he wanted to do because he hadn't done anything like that really either, right? He'd done the zombie movie,
right?
Dawn of the Dead,
yeah.
Which is very different, more raw, handheld, I think, not as stylized, right? So part of the thing was, it was very intimidating as far as how are you going to develop this look in this fantasy, and also we wanted to emulate the graphic novel, which had this painterly watercolor kind of feel. So that was a challenge. We always experiment a lot in school and in music video, so we were up for the challenge. But I think the hard thing was, when you're used to doing commercials or videos, you're used to 1 or 2 day jobs. And then the thing for me mostly was, am I going to be able to survive, 2 months of shooting or whatever it was? Right. Now it seems like it's short, right? 8 weeks. I don't know if that's the exact number, but you have to get up that many days in a row, other than the weekend. That was like, I was thinking for my endurance, that's what intimidated me the most. But it was unfounded because, as anyone knows who shot, if you do TV or a feature the days, it starts to be almost like a real job. It's not like when you do a commercial or video, you have that 1 day or 2 days and you think, okay, we got to nail this. But once the animal starts going, it's not like starting over every day.
Right.
What also made it easier, some people think this is harder, but because of all the blue screen, it was easier and harder, right? Whenever you do a movie, everyone's thinking, wasn't that hard to do it? But in some ways, it's quicker and easier because you don't have to light the deep background. Now, we didn't do the thing like a lot of people thought we did Sin City where, they're on green boxes and not doing anything. Obviously, there are giant sets built, and there's that scene where they walk all through Sparta, right? And there were big sets where there's ground and dirt and buildings and whatnot, sand. But it did mean that as long as the big ground and the foreground and the actor looked good, then you can kind of not worry so much about the deep background. Although, I'm sure you've heard too, where people say, you just do blue screen and they light it later and VFX fixes it all, right?
Right, which is bullshit.
Well, some people might do that. I mean, the weatherman does it.
Right, yeah.
But no, it was all in prep. We always knew where the sun was coming from, the time of day, the weather, so that it was not arbitrary, right? It's overcast, it's the nice soft above, but if it's hard light or has a backlight, we bring out the big lights. And it was warm or cool. We filmed it that way. We didn't just worry about it later. And I think I've said before that I did take frames and quickly do a rough composite on my laptop. And the art department would give me a rough idea of what it might look like later so we could look at it and say, is this the right feel? So that's kind of the process.
To your point too about like it being easy and hard. The one thing that I was watching the special features, jumping mildly ahead, Watchmen needed more special features. There's barely any making of. It's all like, do you want to know about real life superheroes? And I'm like, no, I want to know how they made the movie. But watching the 300 special features, there was like a whole segment on the rabbit.
Oh yeah.
Just the big boulder. That talk to me about like how much of the film is on the rabbit.
It's funny because Jim Bissell is so genius, and like every production art, there's so many times, like if we talk about Sucker Punch, there's where the production designer is thinking, we don't have the money, not just the money, but also it's smart, right, to reuse sets. So the rabbit was that one rock that kind of looked like a rabbit. And then if you turn it different ways, then you could reuse it to be different locations. That was it, pretty much. Which ones? Yeah. Whenever you saw someone like standing on a rock and you couldn't really tell where they were, it was the rabbit. Like, remember where they're lying down and they're spying on the Persian camp down below? That's the rabbit. And other ones where I think the hunchbacks walking in the distance on top of it became the all-purpose set piece. Yeah. I can't tell exactly which ones, but yeah, it was reused several times.
It was just one of those things where I'm like, because also I feel like not a lot of, but it's often now that you'll see a largely CG environment film not take as much care as it seemed that you guys took on the foregrounds. But even looking back at that behind the scenes footage, a lot of those foregrounds kind of just, like when they're running at each other for the triple head unit, the zooms, which in my memory of it as a teenager was like, that was like a 15-minute sequence and it's like 30 seconds. It was used in all the marketing and everything. And it's like, but it's amazing what you guys were able to accomplish even not that like 2006 is forever ago, we had already done the Matrix and everything, but just how well those composites worked, even with a relatively minimal foreground.
Yeah. Yeah, and that speaks to you can only manipulate the foreground, the real foreground, so much. So the VFX people had to, they couldn't go crazy because they had the match, but other times it could go crazy because it was out of focus or so far away, or there was no ground connecting the foreground and the background. It was like if it's sky or something, right. You could do anything. As you know, the skies were very surreal and were often done with just throwing paint or coffee, even literally, on paper and using that.
Yeah, it one thing I did write down was like, it's kind of like a cinematographer's dream in the sense that a lot of it feels like you did magic hour. Like you were just able to really hammer down magic hour time, Yeah.
Sometimes, not all of it, but yeah.
But were those actually, before we get into like lighting and stuff, I did want to go back and talk about the test footage fight that you guys shot to sell the film.
Did you see it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's on the Blu-ray.
Wild.
But because that looked pretty polished. Like it doesn't look too terribly dissimilar from the film. So how much work went into that? Like, was it all the costumes are there. Were there like digi-double? Like, yeah, it felt like the movie was already ready to go with that.
Right. Well, that was how that convinced everyone that, it could work. By the way, I didn't shoot that.
Oh.
I was at Zach's house and he said, I want you to read the script. And I go, okay. And I'm kind of reading through it and it's like, oh, wow, it's just a bunch of people killing each other. I'm like, what's the deal? Fine. I know that you love that kind of stuff, but I don't necessarily. And he goes, no, it's not, don't read the script. He goes, it's not about, what I need from you is the look. Because if it's not about the look, then this isn't even worth making. They have enough Gladiator movies. So if you think of Gladiator, mixed with The Matrix, or all I care about is the visuals for this, then I'm like, okay, that's what the DP wants to hear. Yeah. And then he showed me that clip that you're talking about, and I'd never seen it. I'm like, who shot this? He goes, I shot it. I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, oh, we just got him down on stage, and it was a 360. And like, it looks pretty hard to me. But so that was the proof of concept for the studio and also for me. So, but obviously we took it further. Now I'm not sure, I haven't seen it in a while, but it can't really look like the finished movie because some of the processes we hadn't thought of yet.
No, I just
As far
mean
as the
more so
pipeline,
like,
the VFX pipeline, or the vibe maybe, but not
yeah,
specifically.
because like all the costumes look pretty much like they do in the movie.
Oh, right.
The comping is not
Shields.
shabby. Yeah, the shields are all there, the capes. There's a little bit of, I mean, on the Blu-ray, I think it's like a 480p
Oh,
clip because it's probably from a DVD,
oh
from
yeah, right.
whatever. But even some of the comping, most of the comping is like pretty good. Like it kind of does look like you had already built everything out and then you had someone really quickly go make that.
Wow.
Like you needed the okay tomorrow, you were like, this, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Off we go.
Yeah. I don't know if
So it was
that's
just kind of
the case.
impressive.
It was impressive, but I don't know all the details of it. I think that, but there was speed ramping in there as well, right?
Yeah. A ton. Actually, it's largely slow-mo.
Right.
I think the speed ramping pretty much brings it up to regular speed for like a move that took too long.
So the other way around, right?
Yeah. I mean, it seems probably like a foregone answer, but like when you have such a visual reference as the book, kind of same thing with Watchmen, but does that make your life easier? Because you're kind of, not to be flippant, but like there's a bit of like a paint by numbers thing where you're like, oh, just make it look like that. Or did you find that it was restrictive?
It was more challenging than it seemed because people, a lot of people say, well, you copied the comic book as a compliment. But then some people say you copied the comic book as not a compliment.
Sure.
But I don't agree with either because obviously we can't copy it frame by frame because it's a whole different art form. As you know, comics I love because the format can go vertical, horizontal, go backwards, forwards, do all kinds of weird visual puns and things like that. But film is relatively kind of boring storytelling, right? It's the same frame. That person's talking, that person's talking. Let's see more. Oh, I know. Let's look from above. Hey, genius, right? So especially during dialogue, you have to just talking heads, right? Comics don't do that. So no, we didn't really do that. But we gave the illusion of it because Zach had certain frames that he goes, okay, we're going to duplicate this shot. Because look at the shot, it's amazing. Just make sure we get this wide with this vibe and this feel and this composition. And then you go into the boring, regular expositional narrative, right, stuff. So if we do that and people feel like it's the source material, then we've done our job and, even though we didn't really do it, we've given the feel that you did, which I think is more important.
Yeah. Well, especially with the color and the texture.
Right.
And it's like anything when people do like camera comparisons. Yeah, if you have them right next to each other, you'll be like, no, they look totally. But if you show them back to back, a lot of people won't.
Right. Good point.
It's the impression of it that you go like, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, like I can't do a TED Talk showing that movie and then sit here with the graphic novel and go follow along. I mean, I think Pink Floyd and Wizard of Oz could do better, actually, than that.
Going into the film, did you have, as the DP, did you have VFX concerns about fidelity or ways that it would affect the way you shot? Or was that kind of just a level of trust where you're like, if I just don't focus on the background, not with the camera, but like mentally, I can do my job? Yeah,
I'm obviously, whenever I do a film like this, I get very, very close to the VFX people. And I love VFX. And I think, maybe I would have been in VFX in a different life. So I'm not one of those guys that let them take care of it later, right? So I probably spend more time with the VFX departments than the director sometimes because I want it to work. So it's not all by accident. And you do work tightly together. Like I said, on set, there's discussions all the time and then, and prep and after hours discussing to make sure it all works. But we did some things that were kind of unprecedented, so that was tough. So I remember because all the different vendors were trying to do this look, if you look at it, it's a little inconsistent at times, right? As far as how grainy it is or how affected the image looks, because you only can do so much with so much time and being in different countries or whatever. So, consistency is hard, but Zach always chooses really good VFX supervisors too, because it's important to him, and he spends a lot of time with his notes and revisions of VFX, so he doesn't let it slide by. He's very involved as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it is because I know you chose like I don't know how many film stocks were available, but I was reading that you had chosen, I think it was like 5229 or something, to like, maybe that was Watchmen, for its ability to be manipulated in post.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a lot of tests. And one really weird thing was we were going to do green screen because at that time, green screen was a thing, right?
Yep.
But we did a test, and I hope I'm getting this right. When we projected it, actually projected the film from our tests, we could see that there was a weird fringing between these bright red capes and the green screen. Did I have that right? Yeah, because you see the behind the BTS, it's all blue screen, right? Yeah, because and then we realized we couldn't do green screen, and we're like, well, how's that happening? And we believe it was because it's the layers of the film, the emulsion.
Yeah,
and it made enough of a difference on the
actual film.
Yeah, the color contrast between red was too much for it to handle, and it was affecting wasn't making a. They couldn't cut a clean matte, basically.
Right.
So that's when we had to rethink that. And we had to change the color.
Basically.
Yes, exactly. So that was weird. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. I did see, if you watch the Sparta kick sequence down the well, that was lined with green screen.
Oh, that's right. Maybe because there weren't capes in that?
Yeah, it's the Persians going down the well.
Yeah. Wow. So maybe VFX said for that one, who knows? I'm sure it changed from time to time. But that's their prerogative.
Yeah. The getting into the lighting, one thing that I really love about the film is, and maybe this kind of did inform the way that I prefer to, like, if I had my druthers, I would like this way, but just the big super soft, Fincher does this too, big soft upper source that's just kind of Gordon Willis or whoever called just room tone. But then you would always find these wonderful kind of sharp keys. But I also noticed a lot of eye light being very specific. And I was wondering if you could kind of walk me through the generalized approach to keying these subjects. It's not the same all the time, obviously. Like I did notice in the bedroom scene with Leonidas and the Queen, you can see in the catchlight, like Gerard Butler gets like a regular source, and this is like old school. I think people don't really think about this anymore. And you flip to the Queen, and you can just see a bit of diffusion around her, panel, which is a lesson I had to learn as an early DP. But yeah, like what were those catchlights like very specific to you? Because sometimes it's just that square, sometimes there's multiples, and because you're on a built set, but there is going to be effect. Were you just like, oh, we get to throw like just same key for these close-ups? Did it become easier?
Well, first of all, it's interesting because I'd never used highlights before. Because I was super cool, natural, kind of philosophy. And it seemed very Hollywood to me. So I didn't do it in my commercial work and certainly not music videos. But I realized that I was doing now a movie where, real actors, you kind of have to see them. I didn't want to get fired, but because I'm not as brave, obviously, as Gordon Willis. But it wasn't really just a fear of getting fired. It does give a sparkle. And I'm obsessed kind of with highlights, actually. So it's funny you bring this up because I will always change and drive my lighting crew crazy because, this one I want a big thing, highlight from far away. This one I want it close up and round. This one I want a rectangle. This one I want a tube and under the lens. And then they're going, well, how come now you want to be above the lens or to the side of the lens? It's always changing, right? Because it's, and I don't know why. I've been obsessed, like changing the shape. Yeah, changing the shape and actually cutting stencils I think Steve Yedlin was talking about that in Glass Onion or one of his films, that for the shape of a bounce. Because also I think about when you're outside the fill card, it's always a square, right? Because it's a card or foam core. And then for photographers, it's always round because they have the flex fill. And the photographers are always down below because that's how you're taught to do it as a photo assistant, which I once was. Not realizing that's, well, if you're outdoors, you go under because the sun's going, it's backlight. You want to bring it back under, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? It can be on a 12 by over there, and it's not under because sometimes you don't want it under, but certainly it's more natural when it comes under, or it seems less movie-like because, example, you're on the sand, the bounce comes from under, right?
Sure.
But right now in my kitchen, all the fills come from up there because it's a big white kitchen, right? So there's no rules because when they teach you things like the highlight should be right here next to the camera, or in old school it was a hard light, right? Putting a ping.
Right.
But we all know it doesn't have to be like, it could be a tube here or a thing off to the side. If you're outside, there's only so many places you can be to catch the sun. But if you're inside, it can be any light unit anywhere in any size. And it could be 2 feet away, or it could be, 20 feet away. Then it's more fill, but then that becomes semantics, right? But I was kind of obsessed because we were using Kinos a lot at that time. And so a lot of those highlights were Kinos, and you can see that in the BTS. There was one guy who was the highlight guy. I mean, you're going to be the highlight guy for the whole movie. Because if I adjust it, right, then he starts to get my feel, and I don't have to go and adjust it by hand. Which, by the way, in the old days of film, like you couldn't tell anyway because you couldn't stand by the camera, and you really had to be kind of psychic to know what the image was going to look like. The video tap's useless, right? So, and even it's hard to see through the eyepiece. So, I would let the highlight guy take his best guess, and then we'd check dailies, and I go, yeah, keep doing that. Or, I would say, for this, go a little to the left or under, or more highlight or less highlight. But I think it's kind of like, if you want to use the old analogy of cooking, we all know how to do the certain dish, but at the end, it's the final seasoning of the salt or the pepper, whatever, that just takes it to that place that you can't measure. You just have to taste it, right? And to me, that's how I feel about highlights. Don't quote me on this. I'm really sounding pretentious, I realize right now.
No, because here's the thing. To your point about changing the shape and it's something that I've really started to key into recently because, as a DP, you're always, if you're analyzing an image, you're always looking in the eyeballs because it's reflecting, you can see where the sources are coming from. But the shape and placement of an highlight can either inform or trick the audience into feeling the way the actor feels. It can make them look like their eyes, like a tube underneath can make it look like their eyes are watering or whatever, So it is an art form in and of itself that I think is potentially undervalued.
Yeah, and I don't think you always need it, by the way, either.
Sure.
If you're brave for certain close-ups, the braver you are, you can get away with it if you're on board with, the director and maybe the actor or the studio before they fire you.
Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned the thing about, the emotion of the cry. I call that a cry light instead of an eye light.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're going to cry, okay, better get a harder one and put it right in the middle because you're not going to see that tear otherwise, or you're going to see the tear more. Yeah, so cry light. It's a good one. You can use it.
I will. But the one that I noticed a lot of is there was always like a big square, and I think it started to really and it was rather big in the eye, but it just, because of how graphic everything looks, it made sense that it would be that prominent. And I'm sure normal people don't see it, but
Are you talking about 300 on a specific shot?
Yeah.
You're talking about? Yeah, I think
a lot of Leonidas.
Yeah, a lot of Leonidas. Because there's a lot of him looking down, which I hadn't done a lot of. So I think maybe I was afraid.
And so I
put in a ton of fill, because for obvious reasons, got to see it.
Because there's something, you must have said it somewhere, but there was someone who mentioned that they called it the Fong light, which was just like a 2K.
Oh, yes.
Slapped into a board.
Yes, I don't know how it developed. I think it was because I like to have fun on the set, and I think we kept setting up open face lights into 4x bounce, right? And then everyone always had to move everything and go, why don't we just make this into one thing? So it was just like a 4x and then an arm with the open face, and so you just carry it and put it anywhere. And the crew was kind of amused at that. The Montreal crew. Oh. And they called the Fong light, and they put a. Did you see a picture of it? Because I think someone wrote that on the.
No, I didn't see it, but I mean, like I'm saying, I was just basing it off what I saw in the eye and then hearing about it, or reading about it later.
But also, that wasn't an eye light, right? Because it was high, and because what happens is, we had the top. We'll talk about in a second. The top soft on pretty much all the time because it was always motivated. But sometimes you don't want to put an eye light in, but sometimes you also want it to wrap a little bit around the front. Remember in photo class, the ball, cube, and cylinder, and sometimes if it's too toppy, but you don't want to fill it. You want to wrap it this way. People talk about wrapping this way, but sometimes you want to wrap it that way. So you can actually have it was like at a 45, and it helped bring the top light, around without getting too flat. That makes sense.
Well, yeah, and the other thing too, to the point of like the photo assistant flex fill from the bottom, that's something that's always bothered me because light doesn't come from down there. Like especially if you're outdoors, right, and you're like on a really cheap shoot or you're on a photo shoot out in the desert or whatever, like I've done a bunch of, and I keep on having to tell the random person because I never get enough money to bring somebody, hold it up here, and then they're like, okay, and then they just start looking around and they're not, but most people do, and I think partially it's lazy. But then I said that to somebody recently. I was like, yeah, that's dumb that you just to bring in the reflector at the bottom. He was like, I do that, and I was like, all right, well, fuck me, sorry. But it makes sense for like a desert bounce, but like as a light, if you're going to be using that thing as like a light, I feel like it should come from up top.
Yeah, well, there's no right or wrong is the thing. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I was a photo assistant, I remember the photographer, he always used these 4x4 boards with kind of a gold reflective thing on it. Mm. And we're always at the beach because it was always kind of like swimsuit photography. And you get lazy and you rest it on the ground because they're heavy.
Yep.
But that's what he wanted. He just wanted tons of gold into there. It was something I would never do, but it worked for him. He was very successful. And I think I might have even suggested, because I think I was in film school at the time, I held it up high and he yelled at me. So there's that.
Yeah. That gold bounce was very of the time.
Yeah.
Like I feel like most like magazine, model shoots, it was real hot, overly gold, sun return.
Yeah, where'd that come from? That's not golden hour because the sun, you can see the sun.
Yeah.
This side's warmer. A DP would always make this side cooler if he could.
Did you have to, you must have, but you're going to go through this involved color correction process to get the look.
Yes.
Famously a 10-step borderline VFX process. Did that affect the way that you were lighting in an appreciable way? Like, did you have to give it less contrast knowing that it was going to get popped out?
No, I think I made it look as good as I could by my eye, knowing that it was going to be even cooler later. And if it was a more contrast, like night scene or something, obviously it would be more contrast in that situation. But, I never saw the finished product while we were shooting. So I was just trying to be as consistent as possible. And the best thing I could do is to make it, if it looked good to me, even though I know it's not going to look like this later, that I know it's going to look good in the same way, I guess.
Right. They weren't going to fix it later. They were going to enhance it.
Right. Now, this is funny because when we did the first preliminary scouts up in Montreal, we were going to work this weird brick rundown factory or something. I go, okay, how's this going to work? It ended up not. We worked in a TV studio. But either way, I realized that we need top soft light for these big areas because in the daytime, obviously, and it's like we said, it wasn't a small area. It was giant. When they're running around, that was a giant set. I knew that I would need overall top light with some hard lights mounted, every so often to ring the set. So no matter which way you're facing, you could do backlight or a hard front light if you needed it. Sometimes on a crane. I think it's standard practice. But I was a little worried because I told the producer, and he brought a local gaffer so we could talk about things. And he said, how do we get top? Because in those days, it was basically space lights only. There was nothing else, right? I think. To get tops off,
probably.
right? I guess they had the silks,
the photos that I saw, it's a massive silk, looked like a blue silk, and then probably just tons of space lights behind it.
Yes. So I told the gaffer somehow we need a ton of top soft light, and my idea was that if it was slightly blue, like half blue, it would work for daytime because that's a skylight, right? But at nighttime, it's also slightly blue. And then later we just pushed a little bit. We don't have to change gels on all the space lights, that old thing. Remember those days? Yeah, they need to work overnight. All the grips have to get up there, whoever, and change all the gels in all the space lights. So I thought if we just had that one and committed to it, we could save time and it would work for both scenarios. Just tune the, we'll grade the night scenes a little bluer and latch onto that blue, right? But I go, how are we going to do that? And also in these factories, how are we going to get tons of, there's nothing to hang them from. And it's going to get so hot. And also we need the light levels for these high speed all the time. So the gaffer goes, oh, I can do that. Our last shoot, we did that. I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, oh, our last shoot, like we got a bunch of silk, we dyed them half blue. And then I designed these aluminum tubes with globes, those tubular globes, 2K or 1K globes. You know, the kind that the ends, you know, the springy thing.
Oh,
like for use in open face, like blondes and redheads.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So every 6 feet or something, you know, they had a wire in it. It was the thin aluminum pipe, you know, the super thin with a wire in it, and then the two sockets in there. And then it'd just be basically a long rod. You just hang by wires or strings or any of the ropes from above. You have these? And he goes, yeah, we just finished a movie. We have tons of them. I'm like, oh my God, okay, you're hired.
Yeah. And that was day after tomorrow, right?
Yes, exactly. How'd you know? That's my thing. You never argue with Kenny with the facts. That's exactly what it was. And so he was the gaffer for that. And he was amazing. He's retired now, but that's what we did. It worked out perfectly. Only thing is, every so often they'd pop, and then a piece of glass would come down. They were going to have to run. You know, the silk started catching on fire because there was no. At least the space light has a thing underneath to catch burning things that explode.
Right.
So there's that, but that only happened once or twice.
You know what's funny?
All the Spartans running. Oh, look out!
Some of your compositions just are so striking in the film, and in many of your films, but. I was wondering, was there any non-comic book reference? Like, was that the Bible and we're done? Or did you reference like other films or photographs that kind of informed it a little bit?
Good question. I don't know. I don't think we had any other references.
Yeah.
Because I remember in Watchmen, there were some, and then later in Sucker Punch, there's in Batman vs. Superman, like there's 3 volumes of references put together. You know, he had a whole person. Actually, I have those books. They're bound somewhere crazy, but I think that was such a unique thing that we were on the skin of our shooting that on the skin of our teeth. And Warner Brothers, you know, legendary, had a lot of faith in us. They had to, because they're taking a risk. You know, the dailies, like I've said before, did not look anything like the movie.
Right.
So, but they trusted Zach. You know. I'm not sure why, because after that, I'm sure he was the Wonder Kid and everything. But at that point, he'd only done Dawn of the Dead. But they believe in him, and that's all we need, is someone to believe in us. This podcast is morphing into a therapy session. I think that's, you got a side hustle now.
Yeah. I mean, to that point though, you can have all the trust you have in the guy and you know, the support team that's been put around you and stuff, but kind of sort of a rehash of the first question, but like, how prepared did you feel going into that? with all the unknowns and people, like, saying, hey, this is kind of unheard of. Did you, was this an above average level of anxiety? Or was there enough prep that you felt like, oh, this isn't going to be difficult? Like I heard this one quote that was like, there's no such thing as easy or difficult. There's just familiarity.
Yeah, I think I was familiar with none of it, so it all kind of blurred from the thing. From being in a different country, from, like I said, like all the days, the endurance it takes, plus the daily's not looking like what you're going to do. Plus, there's certain things that Zach was throwing a lot of things in there, right? From the speed ramping to the 3 cameras to the photosonics, which is sadly not around anymore, right? To this crazy, 350, 60 frames per second. That's another story. And the look, right? All of it. And then, it was very surreal. It's like a fever dream in a weird way. So for some reason, I don't remember the stress and anxiety, even though I'm sure it was there as in other projects, because I think there's a weird, quiet confidence that we knew that we've been familiar. Like, I'd worked with Zach a lot and known Zach after, going to film school with him. So we were very familiar with, let's jump in the sandbox and play and trust ourselves, because we took a lot of risks, before that, and they usually paid off. So there's kind of a weird confidence.
That's good to hear. Because I mean, even the smaller gigs that I'm getting still I feel so prepared. I'm like, I've done this before. And then you get one too many new problems. And then you get the next gig and you're like, how many new ones are there going to be here? I don't know anything anymore. What's funny is I don't think I'd seen 300 in over 10 years. I forgot Fassbender's in this movie. Like, I know. Prominently.
I know.
It's like second main character.
I know. It's crazy. He's everywhere.
Yeah. Just what
it's nuts,
what
because I was watching The Killer screening at the Academy, and I'm like, I remember sitting with that guy. And he'd always come with this. The iPod was new, right? And he had the white iPod. He's always like in the corner, like he'd just be listening to jamming on his own thing. And then he's always tangling his things, right? So at the store, I saw one of those things, that cable handler, right?
Right.
And that was my gift to him, and he was so grateful. I remember that, because he was just always jamming. But he was so funny. Same guy. He's so good.
Do you remember a guy named Tim Connolly?
Yeah.
What character does he play?
He was one of the Spartans, right?
Right.
Tim. Yeah.
Because he's a hockey player.
Yeah. That was a mixed bag of really interesting people. There's a guy that a lot of people that became stunt people, a couple of them directors. And you could see them in their Spartan loincloths. Yeah. And also, I believe one guy that was famous for his 1-inch punch, he could do that, like Bruce Lee, because, they're all fighters. And then also, I think one of the guys that, the squirrel suit that could fly, I think one of the champions, I think he was one of the Spartans. Can't remember the names. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I bring up Tim is because I was looking through the IMDb and it just said Tim Connolly, but he's uncredited. And I was like, he played for the Maple Leafs. And so I'm like looking around, like, which one is he? Because, like, they're helmeted, or like, obviously you would have been a lot younger than the photos I could find of him. And I'm just like, which was he? Like, did he have lines? Like, did I miss this random
you would
hockey player? Yeah.
He might have had a wig on or whatever, and you didn't recognize him with the outfit and the 6-pack.
That's funny, though. Also,
you can't see 6-packs if you're a hockey player. You don't see their bodies.
No. And they don't have any either. That's all functional muscle. Like, if you look at any hockey player with their shirt off, like when they're doing the after like game interviews, they always get them in the middle of their undressing for some reason. It's weird. But a lot of times it's very strange. The news people go and they ask the dumbest question. Hockey reporting is horrific.
I can tell you're a fan.
Yeah. But it's all functional muscle, right? So they're not like, they're all really like in shape, obviously, but they're not like I feel like basketball players are all very like shredded. You know, they all look very
Interesting.
like models, and then hockey players are just kind of like bulky meatball guys. One thing I did want to just draw attention to, because I forgot it like rewatching the movie, like a lot of things started flooding back to me, and I had the 300 soundtrack by Tyler Bates like on my iPod. I listened to that like throughout high school, just a soundtrack, and he did so well. And then I look him up, I'm like, oh my god, he did John Wick.
Amazing soundtrack. He's still going strong, man. He's so talented.
Let's see. I wrote script of one-liners. There's some great one-liners in the fucking movie.
One-liners like what?
Oh, just, like, give them nothing, take from them everything, or like we've been sharing our culture with you.
Oh, right.
Or,
yes.
All just the little
catchphrases. Right.
Yeah. You brought up the multicam, the triple cam thing. You've mentioned before how it was just 3 cameras. Was there a beam splitter, or they were just next to each other?
Oh, this is a good story. The original thing, it was called the Crazy Horse rig. I think it was from Claremont. Giant beam splitter, 2 cameras, used for, if you Google it, you can see why they used it. It's called for a movie called Crazy Horse. Cowboy and Indians, not science fiction or anything. So it enabled the 2 cameras to capture the same image for whatever, almost like the same thing you do with the 3D rig.
Right.
Same axis, capturing it 2 different ways for 2 different reasons without an offset. So he wanted to do that, but wide lens and a tight lens. And then so we did tests, and it was kind of cool, knowing that he would stitch and make the zoom later, so you could do when and where you wanted it. But then when we did the actual shot, which was not easy because it's one long take, you've seen the BTS. When the film came back, it was unusable.
Good.
Because there's some kind of micro jitter.
You know what? This is kind of a silly question almost, but
yes.
How was there any effects work to make Xerxes look so big, or was that just framing?
Oh no, that was all the effects.
Yeah.
Super complicated, actually.
Why's that?
Because when you shot that, we shot one thing, and then let's say over the shoulder of Xerxes down to Leonidas, then we had to back up the camera. Right, they didn't shrink him later. We had to back up the camera to make him shrink the right amount to get the right ratios, because he had to use the same lens, right? So yeah, every time we did that, it was crazy math that the VFX supervisor was figuring out like where we had to be. And I'm like, oh, you just tell me where to put the camera. I don't get any of this. So yeah, it was super weird and complicated. Yeah.
It's funny. I've got a lot of Persian friends on a couple of these documentaries I've made, meet a lot of Persians. And every time I'll bring up 300, they always say it with a laugh, because they know they're like nitpicking, but I feel like every Persian I know now is like, oh, that movie. It's like, it wasn't you. It was fake. It was a propaganda film. 300. It's one guy telling the story. Of course, he's going to church it up and make everyone.
Yeah,
I missed that when I initially saw the film. I completely, as a kid, skipped over the fact that this was all a retelling, even though it's painfully obvious. There's voiceover. They show the guy telling the story. It just didn't put I just like in my head, I was like, nah, that's cool. Yeah. Not that this guy was, churching up the story so that everyone would go fight.
Right.
Exactly. That's media literacy for a 16-year-old.
That's so funny. But you're right. Yeah. It was not meant to insult anybody. It was a storyteller who went off the rails a little bit for the sake of, his team, as you said.
Yeah. Well, he's a propagandist. His whole job was to go back and do that. Like narratively.
People did that. People did that and do it today.
Yeah. Speaking of the monsters too, like that was, and highlights, the Immortals don't get highlights except for one shot where they're really far away and their eyes are glowing when they're like up on a hill. And I was like, yeah, that's good.
Isn't that funny?
Like,
is that funny? Oh, that was anxiety ridden. Like, okay, bring in the chrome people. to the studio shoot with the top light and the anything.
Blue screen everywhere.
Right, it's bad enough when you have like glasses that reflect. Can you imagine? Chrome, everything.
Bring in the chrome people. You know what's cool? I right under the Xerxes, I was just thinking about effects. When they're getting hit with those like grenades, the like sparkly grenades. Yeah. That's just a very cool scene. Over how much of that was practical?
Yeah. You know what? We had not a second unit, but splinter unit doing that. So that cool one where the guy rolls and the guy's ducking and it explodes. I didn't even shoot. The second unit or splinter unit did that. Yeah, but it was really cool.
There's just so much of that film that like feels untenable. Just shots like that where you're like, that's the only time that happened. Like you can't, we've said it sort of before, but like that's the magic trick, right? Where you film something that you're like, that could only happen once. Going back to the Fincher thing, like I remember a story, this kind of reframed the way that I think about perfection, was like for Gone Girl, I think. Ben Affleck's sister in the film, like she's working at the bar and she like picks up the phone and she like fumbles it and then drops the scene. She's like, my bad. And Fincher apparently was like, no, that's good. That was real.
It was never,
dude. Yeah, fuck it up again, please. And so that kind of stuff, I always try to like, if I can, like I keep that. That's the good stuff.
Yeah, they call those the happy accidents that you can't predict. Oh, sorry, we have to go back to the 2-camera thing with the unusable footage.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry.
So we had to reshoot that because the image came back all like this. Whoops. Oh, that's how it started because I was doing gestures. And no one could figure out why. So we go to the camera department, the camera's fine. And then there's something wrong with the film. The film goes, it's not us. It's clearly the lab. The lab goes, no, it's not us. Must be the mirror. And we go to the mirror and we're looking at it and we're shaking it and trying to duplicate it and we couldn't. So we never figured out with all these different companies and geniuses and scientists, figure out why it was jittering and microscopically vibrating. But the point was we had to do it all over again. So the next weekend we had to do the next week we had to do the whole thing over again. I'm sure the people are killing themselves and Gerard Butler thrilled about that. But so we had to punt, right? So Zach was like, hey, we're going to just cram 2 cameras really close to each other and hopefully no one can tell. We're at a distance enough, like 30 feet away, then there shouldn't be any parallax. And it's during a zoom. I'm sure it's going to be fine. No, it's not like we're going past a bunch of bushes and trees that anyone would notice anyway, right?
Right.
Even then. So that was very sad until we realized, well, if we're going to cram 2 cameras together, let's cram 3 cameras together.
Yeah.
So we stuffed them together. I think this one upside down. Like, how did we do it? Because those are filmed, they're RE3s, right? Shooting at 120 frames. So they're squeezed together, wide, medium, and tight. I think the wide, medium, and tight was above. Because then that was the one you aimed with, right?
Right.
So Zach wanted to operate it, but it's like keep that on his head, or if it's going to go on the spear, use the top, smaller, tighter frame, and the other ones, they'll work. So that's how that happened. So, and you've seen it on YouTube, right? Someone got 3 iPhones and duplicated the effect, and it was pretty smart of Zach to do that. I don't know if that's been done before and stitch it all later. I think the technology came together right around that time where that made sense, right? And speed ramping.
Yeah, besides like the Matrix, like you guys basically did. I mean, it's not like true bullet time in 3D space, but the sort of playing with speed in such a way was, at least as far as I know, not incredibly common.
Yeah, but I mean, making a fake fake zoom.
Well, but also those fake zooms are flawless. Like I went through slow-mo on the Blu-ray and I got the 4K Blu-ray too. So, and there's no like, there's, how like you'll zoom in on your iPhone and you can tell when it switches to the other lens, like none of that. It's just, it's very, it's really well done.
Pretty cool. I guess it gets some leeway, right? Because it's all blurred.
Yeah.
Not to take away, but
How do you, kind of going back to the idea of the look? There's no such thing as a shooting let on film. So are you just like, I guess you kind of touched on it earlier, you're just going off of trust? You know, you're filming it to look nice, and then you're like, this is probably going to be good.
well, there's a standard day look, right? And then, like you said, maybe there's a magic hour look, warmer key, bluer ambience. In this case, and we'd have to do it in timing or grading to make it bluer. So we'd have to make the sun even more warmer than we think, because it's going to be undone once we make everything bluer.
Right.
And that's where the DSLR comes in real handy, because you can do this and go with your laptop and yeah, that looks pretty good. That'll work. The night stuff. It's funny that talking about the DSLR. I realized that back in the day, now that when you shoot digitally, you kind of know what you see is what you get. I'm trying to remember back in the film days when you could not sleep because you weren't sure if you did the right thing. And I think starting at 300, I'm sure for sure on Watchmen, I remember using the DSLR almost as, remember we used to use Polaroids,
right?
Because you wanted some kind of, assurance or confidence that you weren't screwing up. But I would use the DSLR for that a lot of times. And I remember a specific shot in Watchmen, maybe you should say the story for then, but you can be fooled even if you do what the meter says. Like, let's say the scene is a person in dark clothes with a dark hat in a dark stairway at night. Like, for example, Rorschach's breaking into an apartment. I go, okay, that's gonna be cool. Maybe I'll just take a still. And everyone's getting ready. I'm like, can't see anything. Checking, I exposed that right. But obviously it's black things, Wow, what if I open up 2 stops? Oh, that's better. I think we'll shoot, save my ass. Yeah. So, they clearly, I'm sure Gordon Willis never used a DSLR or anything. No problem. But, some people, they're better than me. I'll admit it. Like, it should seem obvious you need to open up to compensate for an all black scene or something. Or some people would say, no, you don't. So I don't know. So that's one of the things I really do love about digital cinematography, is that I can see that and then, and go to bed at night.
Yeah. Well, Hoyta still uses, he uses a Leica because he's fancy, but he's telling me he does the same thing still.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, I'm not, he's still shooting film and I'm not, so.
Yeah. Well, but I think they seem to own the film pipeline. I'm sure in probably like 5 years, maybe, there will be enough of their work that everyone else can go back to shooting film if they so choose. Right now, it seems like they get all the stock. They're paying for Kodak to exist.
Well, this is jumping forward, but on Batman versus Superman, we had to talk to Kodak and we had to promise that we would shoot a certain amount.
Sure. I've heard them do that for a lot of people.
For the IMAX. And that was when IMAX, we thought, uh-oh. Because even then we're going, hey, IMAX, can you please update your cameras? Maybe because they keep jamming. Can you do this, this, and this? And they're going, no, I don't think so.
That'd be expensive.
And then we're wrapping the movie, and then I go over to Panavision, and I see Hoyta in another room with these brand new IMAXs, a year later. I'm like, what? Those are all the things we asked for. They said they would never do it. And then his cameras have the thing.
They were like, we said we couldn't do it now.
Must be nice to be Nolan.
Yeah.
And Hoyta.
To that point, this is kind of a hacky question, but it isn't elucidative. Given all the experience you've had since then and the advancements in technology, would there be something you'd go back and do differently? Not necessarily like, oh, I fucked up that shot, but just like in terms of process and in terms of, maybe artistic choices if something sticks out, but has time given you tools that would have made something more to your liking or easier or something? Or, but obviously having a shooting lot would be one, but, or do you think like, no, I'd grab another film camera and do it exactly the same way?
Are you talking about film versus digital or just in general?
In general, I mean, the film, yeah, but, like, would LEDs still be relevant? Would you still go tungsten? Would, that kind of thing?
That's funny because you have to roll with the punches, and sometimes I feel like, well, every film has certain cringe shots. I don't think I've done a film yet where there isn't a few where I just can't even look at the screen. What was I thinking? Or, there's at least two of my films I think that were slightly out of focus on the very last frame of the thing, and I didn't do it, but still. It didn't bother anyone enough not to use it in the cut. But yeah, I see things where, but they're never equipment-based regrets. They're all, I made the wrong decision. I should have kept on the other side, or there's too much fill, or, yeah, I should have. It's more lighting things that, because you know how it works when you're in the moment. You're very nervous and it's very high tension, and then you have to shoot, and you're not sure when to say, okay, this is good, let's roll. You wish you could work on it longer, but every DP wishes he had another minute or two. But you have to say at some point, okay, they're all glaring at you, and okay, let's just shoot it. And sometimes you go, we'll be fine. Other times you're mad, and I mean, I haven't done this, but you want to throw things because you're so angry that someone's just yelling at you that we have to go, right? But I find as time goes on, there's less of that for some reason.
Really?
I think there's a confidence to know that, okay, it starts to be diminishing returns, right? When you're working on a shot, most of the times, and you have to just let it go. Oh, for the cooking analogy that you keep bringing up all the time, it's kind of like you keep cooking the thing. You're like, I don't like it. Put more salt. I don't like it. Oh, more garlic. Pepper, and like going forever. It's 5 hours of you adding stuff to it, and then pretty soon, but you should have just stuck with the 3 ingredients, right? But it's hard. It's hard to know that. I think that comes with experience. Where also, I can do this one light. I can tell you, Larry, we can have time to do that. Yep, I already know it's in my head. It's gonna be one light. It's gonna take 3 minutes. I promise.
Yeah.
I think this comes with experience.
But to that end, what did the film teach you? And this will be a good segue into Watchmen. Like, what lessons did you take from that into Watchmen?
I don't know if a lot of it applied technically, because Watchmen was its own beast, and then that stress level was, I remember, much, much higher than 300 was, mainly because it was like 100 shooting days.
Much larger film.
Yeah, over $100 million. Crazy. So I would say, actually, here's something that I didn't think I would say, but I'm going to put the do not disturb on. I think one of the most important things I learned was from Zach being on set, how he treated people. This is going to be a weird thing to talk about, but Zach as a human being is so impressive and positive and uplifting and non-judgmental that the vibe on a set is one that everyone's important and no one is to be disrespected. From PA to catering to whoever. And because my first films with him, I think that might have informed me. I'm not saying I'm flawless and the nicest person in the world, and that's definitely not why someone would hire you. Let's not hire the good DP. Let's hire the nice DP that's funny. I wouldn't. But this whole environment that a lot of us know that's changing a lot, but for the better of any workplace, of how you treat people, right? Whether it's class or whether it's gender or anything, or race, to to foster an environment of positivity, and not just as a moral thing or as a philosophical thing, but also, do people want to show up to work in the morning?
Right.
And I remember on Sucker Punch's script that worked on it said one day, I've been doing this for 30 years or whatever. He goes, this is one of the few times like I get up in the morning and want to come to work. And that's purely because of Zach. So is that the reason? Like, is that our goal as filmmakers? Not necessarily. As a life lesson, yes. And a lot of people that criticize Zach don't know how he is as a person or on the set. So, and again, it doesn't really matter at the box office or to the critics, but it means something to me as someone who, as a citizen of the human race,
Right.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, and not only that, but I think you can make maybe not the best movie, because then people will just bend over backwards for you, but you can make a very good movie. But if you're a dickhead, like, the money havers will keep giving you budgets until that hits a tipping point, and then it's suddenly like, hey, we're going to take that in a different direction. Actually, we're going to go with the guy that people actually want to work with. And even at my level, like, one thing that 10 years ago when I started and I needed to hire people, I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever had a friend work for me that didn't get at as close to a real day rate as I could possibly get.
Nice.
Otherwise, I would just do it myself, because I know someday I'm going to need a favor, and I'd rather the favor be on the back of actually making sure they got paid and were taken care of, and not starting that working relationship with, we'll get you on the next one, which never happens. Oh, this one's small, but we'll get you on the next one. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm really a big fan of yours.
Yeah.
I tried that approach once. I went to a Ferrari dealership and I said, you know what? I don't care what anyone says. I love your car. Can I have one?
Yeah.
Didn't work.
When I buy my second car, I'll come back to you for that Ferrari. Going into Watchmen, I think revisiting it just reminded me of how, like I said earlier, like how much of an effect it had on me, because there is something about the look of the film that is so like sharp. Like, it feels like everyone's etched out of, this is going to sound almost derogatory, but I'm just trying to get it out. Like plastic, like everything is so clean, but it's such a gritty film. But there's something about like the sharpness, the focus of it, the contrast that is just so clean, and yet that gritty aesthetic comes through. And I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say, but I was wondering if you could, even for a moment, because Batman vs Superman kind of has the same thing. Maybe it's just the VFX, but even the opening scene, you've got comedian in his Unit 300 apartment, and just even that look is like, Rorschach walking outside. There's no muddiness to anything. And I was wondering how, like, are we just shooting at a deep stop and we're keeping it sharp, and we're making sure that there's exposure deep into the shadows, or what's giving us that textural polish?
I know that was only my second movie. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, said fuck you, dude.
Oh no, it was my second movie, but I'd been shooting, for what, 10 years at least at that time. But seriously, I know it has a cool look. I'm not sure how to articulate it, and I'm not sure how to explain what you're saying, because when I see it, there's also cool things I see that I don't know how it happened. There's like some magic in a bottle. I'm not saying it's by accident or that I was a hack and they fixed it later, but I am saying that, trying to figure it out as I hear you talk. I know that we shot, then everything, I'd not shot anything anamorphic yet. So that was spherical, Panavision, 35 mil, Primos, no diffusion, and I'll have to say that a lot of it, I think, that world that was designed, first of all, the color palette that was chosen by Alan Moore, well, Dave Gibbons, I suppose, but the actual graphic novel was obviously the Bible, and we all studied the color palette of that. I did, and the production designer definitely, and even the wardrobe, so that subconsciously it feels like that. Using the strong use of the secondary colors more than the primaries for sure, and then from wardrobe on down, they put these amazing things in front of me. First of all, right, and because I didn't use crazy colors. If you look at that, there weren't any worlds where this is the red room and everything's red, or this is all green, kind of color vomit, as my DIT calls it. There's not a lot of that. It's kind of shot pretty straight as far as light and color. So I credit it to production designer, wardrobe, etc., makeup. Did I say wardrobe? I keep getting yelled at by my.
Oh yeah,
supposed to be costume.
Yeah,
costume.
I was there for that the other day.
That's right.
A quick earful from the costume lady.
And I had to make a mnemonic so I wouldn't forget. I'm not going to tell you what the mnemonic is. But
can't say that word anymore.
Not to take my work away from it, but I think we need to give credit to those people that because, people say the cinematographer is responsible for the look of the film. Really? Because the behind the scenes guy certainly has the same vibe. So again, not putting down the fact of the job that we have. There are geniuses in the industry and they do a lot, but let's be realistic. They're, from the concept from the director's house to the meetings and the production designer and costumes is what's in front of the lens, right? As well as the actors and the writing and everything. It's collaborative. So I don't know how to answer your question really. And we had a very excellent colorist, in Stefan Sonnenfeld, who did the DI for the
greats. Yeah.
Well, he does all Zach's films, I think.
Yeah, and it's, I think too, I'm jumping a little ahead in my notes about this, but there's such a beautiful way that you've been able to film scenes, not like, whoa, coverage, but like, kind of traditionally. And then there's always like just one, I'm not going to blow too much smoke up your ass, but there's always like one like kind of breathtaking maybe insert or something. There's always like a punctuation shot that I really love the way that you're able to get those, and they feel very highlighted almost in a way that you kind of go like, ooh. And it's just, it'll just be whatever. It's the button or the camera coming over to some rain soaked windscreen, whatever, just some kind of close. But those little inserts are always just so artistically done and feel very almost CG, even though they're not. There's just there's such a precision to them that feels very enjoyable to look at.
Yeah, well, Zach and I love inserts because from the commercial background, you also see this in Fincher's work and stuff. When you have a close up of something, we can do it so quickly and can do it with our eyes closed practically, right? So those go really fast, but we know exactly what to make it look sexy, right? And I think you can tell that there's effort where sometimes the inserts are thrown off to just done quickly, like so quick no one cares, right? And we're not allowed to take a lot of time, but we don't take a lot of time on them. So I think that's maybe subliminally where you can tell that there's care, maybe.
Yeah. What goes into a sexy insert?
The composition, and then like if the highlights mainly, if it's something shiny, knowing how to put a highlight at something shiny, like this.
Yeah.
This is I have a couple things here.
Pretty cool.
So you're going to talk about this is an oversized lighter that we're going to use for a shot of the close up of the comedian lighting his cigar, maybe in Vietnam.
Oh, sure. And
they didn't use it, but look at that.
Oh yeah.
So look, the highlight, like I was talking about. But then the production designer or the prop guy made these, then gave that as a gift to see the.
That's really cool.
So, funny.
Nice. Oh my God, it's an actual Zippo.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's a Zippo mechanism. That little snappy thing.
I think I've never opened that.
There's no way. It has a flint in it.
Oh my God.
Bro, we got to fill that full of kerosene or something.
Okay, this weekend. Michelle, let me show you real quick.
Yeah.
I was on eBay because I knew Watchmen was going to be huge, so I found this weird thing on eBay. Is that crazy?
Wow. And that's from when the book came out.
Whoops.
Oh, man down. Wow.
Wait, isn't that the food influencers do things like this?
Yeah. You always got the makeup. That's cool.
Last thing. Oh, remember when the lady gets her fingers shot off?
Yeah.
Secretary. There's a little one of her fingers.
I didn't realize that was practical. Oh no, when it hits the floor.
Right.
That's funny.
And then finally, I can see if you can guess what this is.
A little box. Looks like a dice almost. I don't know. Is that a...
Can you hear it?
Oh, it's got a rattle in it. What is it?
It's a sugar cube.
For what?
Attention to detail for the restaurant scene.
Oh my God.
When Dan
it's wrapped.
Yeah, it's actually a sugar cube in a wrapper.
See that I will say the production design in the film is it's stunning. I mean, you especially you built like 3 blocks of
from scratch, New York City. Yeah.
People don't do that anymore. It doesn't feel like.
But it was very, I think after one rain, it all just kind of melted. It wasn't like fully conceived. They did put the I-beams in the ground and pipes underground, so we put wiring for the dimmers and the wiring. And it was the way it was arranged was such that if you went around a corner, it was a different block, right? So you could reuse it.
Rabbit, big.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the rabbit. That was the Gunga Diner. That was the Brownstones where Dan lived. That way was something else. Super smart. Alex McDowell, man. Genius.
There's some of this stuff that I think when this film came out on the precipice of what I would consider to be like modern, like today film. There was a mild transition to digital then. We were getting a lot more, Iron Man came out. But watching the Blu-ray is hilarious because you get this unskippable Blu-ray opening where they're advertising Blu-ray like you're not watching it. And they had said we can if you watch this on Facebook, you can watch live with the filmmakers.
What?
And I was like, you guys were advertising that Zach was going to be on Facebook talking to you and Chris Nolan, because it was 300, Watchmen, and Dark Knight, that it was saying you could go, Chris Nolan's going to be on Facebook chatting with you guys whenever you watch it, and watch it with your friends. You put it in, bring it up on Facebook, and your friends can watch it. Where was this? None of this happened.
Really?
But it's in the unskippable ad at the front of the Watchmen. But
that's hilarious.
I did wonder, was there this is kind of outside of cinematography, but was there kind of any discussion around the Dark Knight's influence on, because you guys were making them sort of simultaneously. I don't really know like what was being made and when they came out specifically. I probably should have looked that up. But obviously Dark Knight kind of changed the way that we look at comic book movies, but so did Watchmen. I feel like so many times people point to Watchmen as like that or Dark Knight, but that was the best we did for comic book movies, because then Marvel just made Marvel movies, right? Marvel has like one thing, whereas at the time Dark Knight and Watchmen felt very true to the form but also unique.
Right.
Was there any kind of discussion or knowledge of the Dark Knight coming out, or it like wasn't even a factor?
I don't think so. I think it's ironic though. I mean, because if you're a true comic aficionado and you know who Alan Moore is and you know how deep he gets with his all his writings, not just comic books. All that deep stuff is in there. And anyone who hasn't read the graphic novel, which is insane, the depths that goes to, and the levels of sophistication and meaning, and it's not just a regular comic book, right? So it was a deconstructive thing and showing the fallibilities of is that a word?
Yeah.
The weaknesses of these superheroes. That was like almost like a soap opera in a way that no one had done before. Like it's kind of rigged part of the genre, with that Alan Moore was a part of. So it's very ironic, I think, too, that that Zach ends up doing the DC universe and Man of Steel, Superman, and all that, when this was even before that whole thing really became a thing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't really count Nolan because that was its own thing and better.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I think a lot of us didn't even realize what we were doing at the time. And Zach, who's always been into comic books anyway, even when we were in film school, I remember him showing me Frank Miller and Dark Knight and things like that. That's why he was the one finally directed, because it was in his blood, not someone handing him the script and, hey,
You loved your Under Armour ad.
Yeah.
Do this.
Yeah, here's a quick catch up. Here's a summary of what's been happening in the comic book world. He was a comic book nerd from the beginning, right? So it's in his blood.
Yeah.
It shows.
When you just thinking of the comparison between 300 and this one, 300 largely outside, right? Everything's motivated by the sun. This movie, either nighttime or inside. And one thing that I noticed that I kind of going into this doc I'm about to shoot next week, I'm like, I'm gonna be putting some scratch light in here. I don't care. There's a lot. There seemed to be.
What's
we were talking about
light?
the art of the eye light. Just the hot highlight on the back. It's not quite a hair light, but
That's a scratch light.
That's what I thought it was called.
That's what it's called. Cool. I like that term. Never heard it.
There you go. You can use that.
Thank you.
But in this film specifically, people are like really etched out of the background in a really wonderful way. And was that just kind of your nature, or were there references that brought you to that?
I have no idea what you're talking about. If you show me the shot, then
I don't know. Just like on a lot, I guess in my head, I'm always thinking of close-ups, right?
But I'm not a super backlight guy, unless it's motivated. But sometimes,
Yeah.
backlight never hurts.
No. Well, that's the thing. Like, I always feel like backlight looks fake, but just like having that like kick on the bottom of the chin or like the side, like that
subtle.
Looks good.
Yeah, subtle anything, just like the highlight. Yeah, if it calls attention to itself, maybe not, but depending what you're doing, there's no rules. But yeah.
I guess because I was sitting there analyzing it, I was like really keying into. But I think it also comes back to that idea of that kind of like sheen that the film tends to have. Obviously we said the production design, but just the way you were, and I'm thinking close-ups here, because in anything that's not a close-up, it's just like a really nice composition, but in a close-up you can really see the lights and stuff. But just the way you were shaping everyone's faces was very, like, again, intentional. And I guess that was the question, was like, was that intentionality born of the material, or was that just the way that you your preference?
In the end, Zach and I just wanted it to look super cool. And I know that I had taken a lot of, this is a pattern of directors that tell me, just make it look good.
Make it look cool. This is a nightmare for me. What do you mean good?
It was a nightmare.
Explain good.
Well, think about it. The opening scene where that fight.
Yeah.
When I realized that it had to be all moonlit, because it didn't have to be all moonlit, but it was a guy at night watching TV just before he was going to sleep, ostensibly. So I think there's a few practicals on, but there's no lights on really, other than the glow of the TV, right? Which is broken, shot at the beginning. So I don't think I'd shot a scene like that. So it's kind of weird to be in an apartment and using only moonlight. And I'm thinking, how am I going to make this look real? So I just remember really praying hard and not knowing if it was going to work. Because also, like, when you do the reverses, then now are they in silhouette? Like, there's so many things about cheating and what you can get away with, and even if it doesn't match. And speaking of moonlight, very blue moonlight, where I notice as my career goes on, the moonlight is less and less blue. If you look at your old work, it's full blue, then half blue, then quarter, then pretty soon green, orange. So I don't know what that's all about. I don't know if that's general cinema taste or just my taste, or you can look at Lost and I go, wow, that moon's blue. That's crazy. But you can't tune it in, because if you have a light, or you have I think maybe HMI is up there on the grain, and you put half CPO, so it's half blue maybe. Then sometimes, depending on your angle, what you're shooting, it looks too blue, and you can't adjust it, right? Unless you get someone up there and put eighth blue, really, you're going to stop all the production. So now that's the cool thing with LEDs, because you can fine tune in colors, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what the thing you said about equipment and the evolution of things. LEDs. The thing is, we use LED lights, and most of them are soft, right? So it's hard to get really hard light. I mean, you know how you have to get a tungsten or plan for it. But let's say you suddenly need one, and you're in another city, and the gaffer doesn't have any hard lights on the truck, or even a baby. Then sometimes you need one, right? And you don't have one. I have a Lico, or what's
too hard?
What's one of those little baby thingies? The black and yellow light.
Black and yellow. The Dito light.
Yes. No, not those. They're kits. They're always coming in a kit. But anyway, the little spotlight things. But anyway, sometimes nothing just beats like a 1K. Like, remember the old days, you just point it at a person or diffuse it. But there's nothing really like that. I mean, now, ironically, you bring out an aperture light or something, and it's gone full circle, right? Because they were more for the prosumer or low budget thing, and then now on the set, tons of aperture lights, more and more.
Well, and now they're all hard.
Yeah, because
I feel like LEDs came out to replace Kinos, and then now they're replacing 10Ks or whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing I got to give a shout out to on Watchmen is whoever the focus puller was. Because there's a lot of just very, especially with the camera, very kind of robotic camera moves a lot of times, and then just really just smooth. That is good. It's good. That
was Simon Jory, and that was his last film because he was going to become a DIT. And we're like, what's a DIT?
There's a lot of I'm noticing now, just looking at I while watching it, I seem to have just been so obsessed with how clean and sharp it is, but those are not good descriptions of the actual image of it. Those are just the vibe I'm getting, where it's the contrast is so just good. I don't know. Do you think that shooting film was a strong element in the look of Watchmen? Do you think you could do the same thing digitally, or do you think it would inherently have a different look?
It's interesting.
Because you weren't bleach bypassing or anything, right? It was shot.
Everything straight. No tricky things. Nothing tricky at all. That's weird. It would be a weird experiment to see, because you'd have to have the exact same situations of the same set, same everything.
Right.
Do side by side thing. And nobody wants to do that.
No.
It'd be a great experiment.
Brother, I bet I could find someone to, if you agreed to sign on, I bet I could find someone to pay for it. It's, just get a little set and then be like, all right, we're going to do it. Let's do the same thing.
You have to do everything, though. Like, if it was the apartment, you need the apartment set. You have to do all those shots, right? Including the one from outside.
Oh, that's a good point.
You couldn't it's not like the shot deck thing, just one image, right?
Yeah. So in we were talking about the Fong light and stuff in 300. Were those approaches to lighting kind of replicated in Watchmen, or did you have to kind of
No, there's nothing special. Watchmen is very done traditionally, which has kind of made sense, right? There's nothing fancy. There's no tricky lights other than Kinos. It's pretty straight. It's classic. It was great because our gaffer, he was, I think that was his last film, and he was an older guy that was, was originally from England. So he had this, he had an aesthetic and a work ethic and a kind of taste that probably infiltrated the look too. Yeah, he was the perfect gaffer for that. He actually, it was really cool because you know that scene in it's like the war room. Nixon is there in Watchmen.
Yeah, the I have here. Dr. Strangelove said is fun.
Yeah, the Doctor Strangelove, like Kubrick, obviously my favorite. So we were duplicating that scene or replicating it from Doctor Strangelove. So we kind of made the same version. We didn't have a room to have that door. There was a guy standing in a doorway way back there. So we made a smaller door and put a little person.
That's awesome.
It's so Zach, right? But forced perspective. So, you know, the maps of in the original movie and the little dots showing like track of the bombs going.
Yeah.
So they were talking about it, and then they were going to do little light bulbs, turn them on. So it's duplicating the thing of the arc of the nuclear warheads, right? And I go, I don't think those were light bulbs. I think because when they turn off, you don't see anything. So I'm telling the Zach and the production designer, and they go, yeah, who cares? And then I go, yeah, it doesn't matter. So then when I hired the gaffer and I took him through the rooms of all the production art, concept art, and was showing him these things, I go, oh, look we're going to do the thing like Kubrick. And the screens up there, I think the rear projection, they're just going to make art work with light bulbs. And the gaffer goes, no, that was definitely rear projection. And I go, how do you know? And he goes, because I was working the projector.
Hell yeah.
So, hell yeah, you're the right guy for this job.
Yeah. Sit him down. You're like, I've got questions.
Right. Like grab him. Like this guy, tell him what you told me.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so great. Dennis Brock.
Well, and I'm kind of glad you said all that, because I think that's kind of what I was getting at with, like, I didn't want to jump ahead, in the sense of, I think one thing that I really appreciated rewatching it was how, I don't know if formalist is right, but it is like kind of classic. Like, you could show Watchmen in a film school, in a film class, and be like, this is modern, but this is the same stuff that you'll learn in any of the books that we're going to assign you or whatever. This is all pretty, like, not that it's boring, certainly not, but that it is classic, and it still looks great. And I think maybe recently people have been getting away from that classiness.
Yeah.
Not classy, but classicness, in a way that maybe we should return to, because I think people are, the children yearn for Fong.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, people are returning to vintagey stuff, right? Everyone's shooting on their sure shot cameras and on film and everything, or vinyl or whatever. So you're right. It's funny because that's when we were at our youngest, ironically.
Yeah, right.
Doing more mature work probably than we're doing now. Now we're just kind of going rogue. It's supposed to be the other way around, isn't it? So interesting. Yeah, what really drove that?
I think I have that actually is a different podcast, because I have a lot of thoughts on that. You could piece it together if you listen to fucking everything, but I think we've done the youth a disservice in ways that we can't control, but we as a collective have fucked it up. But after the Strangelove thing, I've written T2. I don't know what moment is there a Terminator 2 reference or like shot in there? Because I don't actually know what I meant.
No, I don't think so.
But
T2.
then
shooting stop.
Shooting stop? Oh, no. Terminator 2, yeah. But then after that, I did say that I wanted to ask, in the prison scene, the breakout scene, it is giving a little bit of an old boy / Matrix kind of feeling. Like the lobby scene. It's somewhere between the lobby scene in the Matrix and the old boy hallway scene.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, because we were behind through the cells, dollying, right? Through the
yeah.
From behind, took the walls out, did all this stuff. Yeah, that was. Was that before or after Old Boy?
Old Boy 2003?
It still wasn't a one take thing at all, though. So
no. But just kind of
not nearly as hard. But yeah, it was weird because that one stuntman that takes that crazy hit from her and like does a flip or falls flat on his back or something. Remember that? That was a guy that could actually do that. That was there's no
just
pad.
flipping.
Yeah, no
land flight.
pads on the ground or under it. He could just do it. It's crazy. Asian guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you was there anything here that this is kind of the same follow-up question to the 300, but that you came into and thought like, this is going to be easy, and then it struck you as being hard, or maybe in reverse, or any similar like lessons that Watchmen taught you? Because while it may have been, sort of, as we were saying, classic to shoot and conceptualize, there had to have been challenges for such a large film.
Yeah, but I think our job entails a lot of just problem solving. That's
the fun part.
Yeah, like in any industry. So, this is cool. You remember the title, the opening sequence?
Yes, and it was so. Just real quick, sorry. With the floating title thing in like the early 2000s, I remember me and all my film school friends were like, we have to. I spent weeks in After Effects figuring, because it had a shadow, right? It had like the title was in the scene, not for every title, but like it was you guys, Panic Room, Moon had the like floating title thing with the actual shadow, and I was like, this is crazy.
I have no idea. Title company. I never really thought of that.
I could show you an After Effects. Could not have been easy. It's still in my head.
Because that's not CG, is it?
No. Okay. Real fast, what you do is you just put a plane in After Effects wherever it matches up on the footage, and then you project a light. You make the text solid, and you just project the light at it, and it just lands.
All right. They did have computers.
Easy.
They did have computers in those days.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
There was CG. I forgot. Because I'm thinking I'm in the time of the movie, right?
Yeah. 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 No. Not the 80s.
So Zach said he wanted to do this thing, and he wanted to keep having photographers' bulbs go off as this transitional thing, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, and I want to shoot that super slow motion. Like, okay. And then, the only way to really get a good flash is to actually use the flash, right?
Right.
And the whole thing I don't know about now, but they're slowly running out of them. So I don't know if they've run out yet, but there's only a finite amount because they don't make them anymore.
Oh, those like the weird
real
like
flash bulbs.
Yeah.
The news photographers back in the day with the
it's got like a Brillo pad in it.
Yes, exactly. Have they run out? Because I don't see them anymore.
I imagine.
But every movie is like, well, we can do so many of these, the prop guys, we're going to run out. So the best way, because, they go bright and then they fade, right? There's no way to duplicate that. So Zach said, I want to shoot it at 1 million frames per second or whatever.
Right.
And I go, okay. And I thought about it and I go, Zach, that's not going to work. He goes, why? Because the flash bulb can't get any brighter. And you wanted to white out the person.
Right.
So if you shoot it at normal, it'll happen. But when we start increasing the frame rate, we can increase the light on the person like you do any time with slow motion, but we can't make the flash bulb any brighter.
Right.
And he's like, oh, shit, you're right. Well, you go figure something out. And then so me and the gaffer were thinking about it. And then I came up with the idea that you never actually see the flash bulb, right? Because you're behind the photographer. So in the reflector, it was actually a 5K open face, a 2K, or maybe 1K bulb, just like we talked about earlier, 300, it's a globe of real light, movie light, bright, inside the thing. So what you would do with, the, not dimmer, but the rheostat, remember those mold?
Yeah.
Put it on 100, turn it on, and then quickly fade it. So there was one guy that was a job, and I made him watch flash bulbs to cut so he could emulate how it fades. So that's all acted. That's a light bulb pretending to be a flash bulb. So that way we could shoot at 100 frames or whatever it was, and white out the person that's right in front of me.
Was any of that not slow-mo?
Oh, thank you. Because we could only shoot 100 frames, even with that method. But Zach wanted it to be 360 frames. And I go, I can't do it. So that's why he just goes, okay, then I'll just have everyone move slower.
See, because there's like one or two.
Yeah, there's a couple where no one's moving. But we're dolly. All of them are dollies. But some, they're moving a little bit, and some maybe not enough. So it looked like they're statues.
Well, there was
It
one.
added to the
There was
surreal
one.
feel.
I think it was like. I think someone like had like a guy in a headlock, he's shooting a gun or something. But when it dollies back, something about it made me feel like he was holding still, but we were still at 24. And just because like I felt like I saw a little wobble, but it could probably just twitched if you were shooting it at like 100.
I think we did many things, so it could have been, because I wish we practiced that a bit more and did more tests, because it would have been better if someone had kind of moved, right? Because some of them are not at all, so they look like statues, which is still cool and surreal, but it was just playing with that aspect, because if you couldn't slow the camera down, just have the person move slower.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. That's what I'm talking about, the sandbox that we play in, like always come up with crazy ideas. You know, Zach, what if we did this? That's crazy. That's nuts. No, let's try it.
Did
Yeah.
Oh, I just wrote David Hayter because I love Metal Gear Solid, so I forgot that he had written it, and I was like, oh hell yeah. Let's see here. Where would you stack Watchmen in your pantheon of films? Was this like the most involved film you have done, or like in I guess how much effort you had to give to it, which will be relative for every film, right? The more films you do, probably the less quote unquote effort it feels like.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I think that's pretty high up there. But I have to say, I think Batman versus Superman was the one that I felt like me and my crew gave the most blood, sweat, and tears in.
Sure.
So much, so many things, and with a schedule that was tight, and then production kept saying want to make it cheaper and do it with less lights, this and that. It was just a challenge, and we were doing so many elaborate things that that was a lot of work. I remember being exhausted physically after that thing, because that was almost a year all told put in between prep and then delays and then hiatus, extended hiatus, and then different cities.
Yeah.
Watchmen is at least in one place, because we shot in Detroit and in Chicago and in Arizona and in what's that place? We shot the top of the mountain where it was all snow and icy and actually did freeze. There was no oxygen.
Oh.
I forgot what mountain
Budapest?
that was. No, it was in the U.S.
Oh, it was. Because
people go ski there. But we were going to go to Morocco until they had floods and diseases, and then we had to go to a copper mine, I think in Arizona or something.
Sure.
That was to play for Africa.
Well, but also Batman vs Superman. There's a lot at that point. There's a lot more writing. I feel like you make Watchmen. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you make Watchmen, and that feels like, all right, go make your movie. That's rad, cool, whatever. But now with just how superhero films have dominated over the past decade or more, there's I'm sure a lot more eyes on, especially a property like Batman, but a lot more cooks in the kitchen on that than potentially Watchmen, right?
Yeah, true.
I can see how that would be more stressful. The sandbox probably got a lot smaller.
But it's still a lot of playing. I mean, even the Nightmare, that's something Zach thought of, just
that is a 60.
Less than a week before to go, let's just come out of the thing and do a 360 on IMAX.
Yeah. I forgot you've shot IMAX.
Yeah.
But like you've done it a few times.
Yeah.
Are there any, like, I suppose I've talked to like other people about this, but for you, like, is it kind of more of this? Do you like IMAX as a format, or is it kind of, do you feel like I could, whatever?
It was fun. I like what we did. I like that in Batman vs Superman at the end, it wasn't because of a chase scene or fight scene. It was all about the stillness and being very photographic. Mm-hmm. During the sad, funeral scene at the end, that a lot of people forget that's an IMAX, and it seemed like it was shot like with a Hasselblad or something, It actually probably was Hasselblad lens.
Right.
But it had that feel. But I think it's lost if you don't see it in the cinema. Like when I saw it, and I thought, God, this is gorgeous. It just doesn't translate, even if you have a 60-inch, 65-inch at home. It's, even I was very moved at that sequence, seeing it in IMAX. But I don't know. I've never been crazy about large formats or I mean, 6, 8K, 12K, whatever K. Like I prefer to shoot digital projects with Alexa 35 because it takes me back to like when we shot Watchmen, for example, that form factor, right? I know people want to shoot higher for sometimes visual effects, or sometimes, as we know, with Sinners and One Battle After Another, people are getting bigger formats. But I'm not sure. I mean, if the director wants to do it, of course I'm on board. But if I was directing, I don't necessarily see what the advantage of a large sensor or a large piece of film. I don't know. Maybe because I'm old fashioned. I think maybe it's stupid to think this is the format and stop there, because I'm definitely not a dinosaur afraid of the future. But well, the thing is, right? The people that shooting digital wanted to look, putting fake grain on and anamorphic and then distortion and things to make it look like film. But then I want to look old, but actually I want to look new. Yeah, I don't know. I'll do whatever.
We'll just take a quick 5-minute detour to Mike and Nick and Alice.
Okay.
What it was a privilege to be able to watch it in theaters with you, because it's on Hulu now, and a lot of laughs, a lot of fun. But similarly to what you're saying about the classic kind of look of approach to Watchmen, not if for how much. Not globetrotting, but it's we've got time travel, we've got there's a lot of different sets. It's a comedy, but a lot of action. Still shot quite classically, but it gives off the feeling of something very high budget for what's hitting a streamer. How did you get involved with what's his name, Ben
David Grabinski?
Ben David, yeah. And then also, what were you guys discussing when trying to? What was where did the look of that film come from?
Oh, that's an easy one, because first I got the script and I read it, and it's pretty hard for me to get through a script and I take my time. But this one I just did one reading because it was such a quick read and so funny. And I was laughing out loud, literally, which doesn't happen a lot. So when I realized he wrote it and was directing it, I called him, ironically, and said, we should get a coffee. And then later that week, he was, he practically lives at Vidiot's, right? So he was introducing The Last Boy Scout. And what year was that movie? Do you know?
Last Boy, I don't know.
You can look it up. Anyway, that era, like the John McTiernan, that's his favorite director, and he loves Die Hard, and he loves that style. Yeah, so he's loved that style of the 90s. So he goes, that's what I'm thinking of for the movie. Like, oh, cool. And I don't think I'm hired yet. We're just talking about it. So what does that mean? So, he also did Predator. I shot the Predator.
Yeah.
Predator. And I can tell Ben David, for being a writer, not for being a writer, I didn't mean to say it like that, but he was really into he loved that DP, Jan de Bond, and he was interested in those lenses and the look. He goes, what kind of lens are those? And I go, I don't know. So I get on the phone with Dan Sasaki and I go, what can you tell me about McTiernan and about Die Hard and those movies? And he's telling me all the stuff about the lenses. And I go, how do you know so much about those lenses? He goes, because we made them.
No, of course he did.
And I go, cool. And he goes, I think we still have some of them. I said, you what? He goes, yeah, we totally have those. But does anyone ever rent them? Can I rent them? He goes, yeah. And do you have the whole set? He goes, well, we can make lenses. If we're missing any, then we can make some that emulate them. I go, are you kidding me? So I call Ben David, and I don't know if that's how I got the job or if I had the job by now, but I said, hey.
Couldn't have helped. Or
yeah,
had to help.
I got the Die Hard lenses. And it's funny that, you think someone like Fincher or something would care so much about the lenses, but Ben David, I did not expect him to scream and hit the roof and be so excited, more than almost any director I've worked with, about the lenses.
Yeah.
And but that's the kind of the guy he is, which made it so fun. He's such a fanboy and knows so much about film history and references that all of Mike and Nick and Alice was he had so many references, almost to the point where, like, please, can I throw in some ideas?
Right. Every scene is something.
Right. Wong Kar-wai this or that, So you can see that at sometimes in the movie, there's like, it seems like there's just all these gimmicks being thrown out, from the step framing to snap zooms to more color than I've ever done. Right, the color vomit that I talked about. Had to eat my words.
Colored lighting, you mean?
Colored lighting.
No, I'm asking. Like, you mean like more colored lights, or
yeah, like there's the hotel
yeah.
things and clubs and all this. I mean, obviously clubs can be colorful, but like
right,
hotel rooms
right.
and but other things where I still, I have to have some kind of motivation. Or, I'm not going to have red light coming from the toilet, for example.
Right.
Hey, that's a good idea. A monster movie. But it was just a fun time. I think you can feel in the film that it's not just because we had no ideas and we're trying to rip things off, but it's in the DNA of the movie that's kind of lighthearted and fun. And I don't do a whole bunch of comedies. Well, done some, but this movie is kind of unique. You wouldn't think the same guy did Watchmen or Batman vs Superman did Nick and Alice. But like you said, I think because I'm the older guy of the two, of me and Ben David, that I was able to, even though I can still hang with the young kids and do the cool stuff, I also do have that sensibility that I was trying to rein him in a little bit, so that it still wasn't to hold it together. Right. Well, it seemed like just a parody of a million things.
Yeah, well, and you're such a great filter for that, right? Because and I think those are some of the best working relationships, is when there's restraint somewhere. I think you and I were talking a while ago, or lunch the other day, like, some people would consider that Lucas's best work is when people were like, "Hey, rein it in," So if you have someone with just explosive ideas and someone who can be a sort of a tastemaker, the radio DJ sort of version of the funnel, that usually does result in a great project. And I think with this film, it like I said, it was just so enjoyable to. Granted, we're at Vidiots. Granted, there's people that worked on the film. There is like a heightened levity to when you're in that environment, which is something I love about going to screenings and living in this city and all that. But I think you were a great filter for.
Yeah, but just to be clear, it's not like you didn't say like that's a dumb idea, I'm not doing it. They're still doing it, but I'm going to add the flavor and things and other things, whether it's the composition or the framing and stuff that it's all very subliminal, right?
Yeah, it's polish. You know what it is?
It's hard.
We haven't talked about this, but it's like seasoning for food.
Yeah, like when he was putting the chili peppers all over the pizza, he didn't know when I was holding the napkin here, like diverting some of it off to the side.
Yeah.
But there's still chili peppers on the pizza, or not chili peppers, chili flakes. It's still his movie, and the thing is that despite all of it, he has a vision, and he knows what he wants, and that's even though it's only his first big movie. I respected him so much for that he had a vision that I could follow, right? And it wasn't just a big, like you said, a conglomeration of notes from studios or 1,000 rewrites. It's a script.
Yeah.
And
it's great that he picked it's not a simple script because there's a lot going on, but it is it's propulsive, it's doable. Yeah, it's just the perfect amount of excess within reason.
Yeah. Yeah, you get it, and even on the page when I read the script, I go, okay, I get it. Sometimes you read the script and well, where are they going now? That's not going to be possible. Whether it's the budget or just physics, who thought of this? What the hell? There was never a point in the script where I thought this. No. Yeah. That's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well, it's fun to watch. I did see a clip of Ben David talking about how he didn't realize that you'd have to use motion control for some of the doubling. Or no, maybe it was Jimmy. But what someone was saying, I didn't know we had to get this big machine and do that.
Especially Vince Vaughn didn't know.
Yeah, you're going to need to do that again. Huh?
What? Go again. When? Keep rolling. No.
All right. Well, like I said, man, the 300 and Watchmen specifically had such an effect on me, and it's a privilege to call you a friend and continue
likewise
time with you.
Frame and Reference is an Owlbot production, produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to frameandrefpod.com and clicking on the Patreon button. It's always appreciated, and as always, thanks for listening.